What is up? Hello, everybody. Episode 174, Sports Card Nation. Glad to be back as always. And, I've always said that, and it's not lip service, that you out there, those of you that listen to the show, is the fuel in this car that makes it go. And I don't know what's gone on the last 2 or 3 weeks. Seriously, I've gotten, I always usually get some feedback, but the last 2 or 3 weeks have really, my inbox has been kind of blowing up, whether it be direct messages on social media or emails sent to the show or through the show website. And it just seems to be an influx, all of them positive, and I'm very, very thankful for those. I'm gonna every once in a while I won't or can't read them all, but I will every once in a while share some that I think I don't want to say worthy. They're all worthy, but that I think could be pertinent to something feedback or whatnot. So I want to read one today that I got from Mr. Daniel Tite. He resides in Minneapolis. I have trouble with that saying that city. My apologies there. And I asked him if I could share this, and he said yes. So this is an email from Dan, and very much appreciated. But it reads as, John, I really appreciate your content and guests. Furthermore, I enjoy how you pepper in advice and perspective on life. They're important reminders. My one gripe is how you often say you're old. In the last episode, you must have mentioned it 5 or 6 times. 48 or 49 is not old. It's not young either, but maybe you could go with middle age. Because if you're old, then by my calculations, I'm even older. I was born in June of 72, and I refuse to think of myself as old yet. And you certainly have the energy and productivity of a youngish man. Thanks, John. Keep up the good work. So glad to hear you've gotten into the field of education as well. I'm a college professor. The way you affect young lives is invaluable. Dan Tite. And Dan, first off, thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for what you do, college professor. I'm not even in the same zip code, but education and working with youth and young men and women of any age is, as you already know and many out there know, invaluable and crucial and impact making. And that's the one thing I've taken away with my new job, and wish I did it sooner, but I'm here now and enjoying every minute of it. And I know I do the old thing. I do it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I'll be honest with you, you're not the first person that said, knock it off. I walking through I've gotten a couple other emails saying I'm not old, and I appreciate that. And I was walking through the National last year in Chicago, and one of the dealers, it was before the show officially opened. I had a media pass, so I got in a little early before the doors opened. And one of the dealers kind of ran up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I stopped. And somehow he recognized me. He says, you John Newman? And I said, yes. And he goes, hey, man, I love your show, but I only got one complaint. And I said, let me have it so we can make this show better. And he goes, my only complaint is you got to quit saying you're old. I'm a couple years older than you. I don't feel old. Stop doing it. So this is sort of a common theme. So here's what I'll tell you. I'm going to make a concerted effort to not do that, even though it's tongue-in-cheek. And you're right. If you're lively and you feel younger than you are and you're enjoying life and all that good stuff, I kind of do it, poking fun at myself. I try to be self-depreciating. So with that being said, I'm going to make a concerted effort to sort of eliminate that from the lexicon. I know I won't be 100%. It just kind of slips out sometimes, especially sometimes with the conversations I have, on Sports Card Nation with people on the show, especially when they are younger than me. But I will make, like I said, an effort to try not to do that. And I will say this, just one disclaimer. The interview you'll hear today, I recorded before I made this, are making this concerted effort, so I'm sure I've said it a few times on today's episode, so forgive me there. But thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody who's, like I said, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I don't know what's going on, but just an influx of more than usual positive feedback. And, man, I can't thank those enough. And even if you don't send any feedback and you listen to the show, that means the world to us here and me, and thank you. And by all means, I'm open to feedback, good or bad, obviously, hopefully good, but also here to help anybody. You got a question, a concern, want to talk. I had someone else reach out to me this week. I won't mention their name. If they're listening, they'll know it's them. A gentleman reached out. His wife, he heard that my wife has lupus, and his wife has lupus, and we share that common thread, and we struck up a nice conversation kind of revolving around that. So even something like that doesn't even have to be always about the hobby, right? We're all running this race we call life. It's more than cards, and I try to bring life to the show. I try to bring life even to my social media. You'll see I post pictures other than stuff pertaining to the show or the cards. And yes, that's a beautiful thing that we all share a passion for, but we're also more than that. And I'm not shy about, stating that or sharing those things, right? The human side of us. And so by all means, my door is always open to everybody, literally about almost anything. And it means when I get these sort of correspondence, I know I'm droning on here, but it's important to say that it's very important to hear that, and I appreciate it. And so thank you. Keep them coming and feel free to send them. All right, let's talk about this week's show. Got a great young man. I'll call him a young man. Adam Palmer, Heroes for Sale. This is a guy that does literally content creation almost every day. And we talk about that and the balance, of doing that on a daily basis and being a husband, and balancing content creation and life. We obviously talk about hobbies, goings on. He's also a teammate of mine on Hobby Hotline. So I've gotten to know him even more, and he's a great guy, and I definitely thought it was time to have him on. I think you'll appreciate him if you don't already, and great conversation about hobby, about life, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's get the show started.
Yo, this is the Card Carver. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Greg Morris Cards wants to buy your cards. A long-trusted name in the sports card business, Greg has been buying sports card collections for over a decade now. Any sport, baseball, basketball, football, or hockey, in any era, vintage or modern, will do. Just no junk wax error sets, please. To learn more and to sell Greg Morris your cards, go to www.gregmorriscards.com. Fill out the consignment sale request form, and someone will get back to you on how to get cash for your cards. Also, if you're a dealer looking to sell your collection, Greg Morris wants to talk. Plenty of dealers use Greg Morris' massive eBay platform as a way to consign their cards. Take advantage of Greg's experience in the hobby to get more bang for your buck.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready?
All right, joining me now on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. He's a fellow content creator. He's a very busy one at that. He's also one of my teammates on the Hobby Hotline video podcast as well. Heroes for Sale, Adam Palmer. Welcome to Sports Card Nation.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, should have had you on sooner, but better late than always never, as I say. And you are very in touch with the hobby. You're creating content daily, whether it's your own stuff, Heroes for Sale. You're also, for those that may not know, you do collectibles, TikTok content as well. So you're out right on the front lines with everything that's breaking, happening in the hobby. And so I definitely want to, pick your brain, ask your opinions on some stuff, some current events stuff. But let's start with, you're a dad, a husband. You do a
Not
lot
a dad,
of daily...
but I am a husband. I am getting a dog soon. So maybe I'll be a dog dad.
Hey, pets are family, so you'll be a dog
Right.
dad, and I am one of those as well. And with my son being 22, I'm probably more of a dad to my dog than to my son. But hey, just being a husband sometimes can be a demand.
Right. Yeah.
Too. I'm married 23 years, so I get that too. Family or no family for that matter, Adam, creating daily content is a commitment. It's just speak to that, and how do you balance personal life with content creation? I always ask someone, especially when I know they do a great job and do a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to like finding the time to do it. Like, I think, my wife is great, and I'll just be like, hey, I got to record. Like, we live in an apartment outside of Boston. Luckily it's a 1-bedroom, so we're not, our first apartment was a studio in Alston, which is a suburb of Boston. And we lived in like a studio apartment, and we moved into a 1-bedroom, and then we moved into another one that's a little bit more spacious, which is nice. And has some big windows, so that's where the lighting on some of the videos you're seeing is a lot of like nice sunlight most of the time. So it really just comes down to planning. I think is also pretty important. Like if you can figure out how to do all the content that you need to do kind of all at once, whether it's short form video or it's recording podcast stuff, and then so that way you're not just making videos all the time. I mean, I think if I had started doing videos when I was like in college or younger than I think I started on TikTok specifically in like 2019, I think towards the end of 2019. And I think, doing it for as long as I have, I think my wife knows that I like doing it as well. So I think it's really just figuring out how to effectively do it. So it's not necessarily, so it's not taking up all of your time. So you're not like creating videos when you should be like making dinner or like, watching TV or stuff along those lines.
Yeah. And I don't know your wife, obviously, but she knows you have a passion for it. So she's supportive in that respect. Same here. My wife couldn't tell you, anything about cards, but she knows it's something I've done for a long time. She's known the content creation stuff I've done for some years now, and she just supports it without knowing really what it is. She just knows
right.
That it's important to me and like with you and your wife. That always is nice when you can get that support and like, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but go have fun, go do what you got to do. I'll see you later. Here, what I have to do here, Adam, we have a whiteboard in the kitchen it's a calendar, and
yes.
anything content creation wise, I just have to put the times and like I won't be available. Hey, 9
Right,
o'clock,
yeah.
talking with so and so and that sort of thing. Just so she knows and ahead of time, like, hey, at this time he's going to be doing that, and never get any pushback, just as long as where you get in trouble is like, oh, late in 2 hours I got to do this, and like,
Yeah, right. Oh well, we're supposed to go to dinner or something along those lines. Like,
yeah,
as long as like beforehand or at least earlier in the day, you're like, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. Or I mean, when it comes to like the content creation, it's more just kind of that doesn't take as long as like a podcast or something along those lines. So it's like just finding the time where like I'm not like stopping us from doing something by creating content. So it's kind of stuff like that. You gotta make sure you're planning ahead for.
yeah, and like I said, I'm married a long time. One of the rules we have here in this household is we can make plans, like individual plans, if they don't interfere with stuff we've already had planned.
Right.
So if it's nothing scheduled on that day, here, let's say, you can, and I'm not even just talking content creation. I'm just talking in general. Hey, a coworker wants to go to the bar and have a beer or two after work. As long as there's no other plans that were already in place, knock yourself out, have fun, be safe, see ya when you get home. And, that's always nice to have, a partner that's understanding and accommodating. And that's a two-way street. I don't want to make it like it just works for me and not the other way around. We both have the same rule. So you do, daily content, that's the thing now, Adam. I've been in this hobby a long time. The hobby used to be in a place where, you could go away for a year, like quit collecting, not pay any attention, and come back and you really didn't miss anything. You kind of jump back in and like nothing ever happened. Those days, as you well know, are in the rearview mirror. The news cycle in today's hobby, we had Jeff Hoffer on recently, who's works for Panini. He's like, dog years are like 7, like a human years, like 7 dog years. We need something like hobby years. And I came up with like 7 days now is one hobby year. What it used to be like the news we get in a 7-day span is almost like the old hobby would have been like a year's worth of stories. And, but we're joking, but there's a thread of truth in that's how fast news is breaking now with whatever that news might be, someone getting licensing, a new company, a new product, a new innovation. And that daily content is really as important as it ever has been to get that word out, to get for those that need the information. You do a great job, like I said, with Heroes for Sale, with Collectible, with TikTok. For me, I'm older. I'm an old guy. I always joke that it keeps me hobby young, but talk about that news cycle, how it's evolved to be an everyday thing now.
Yeah, when I first got back, or not really got back into, but when I first started doing content, like one of the inspirations, I guess in a way, was like Madden and MLB The Show, YouTubers who like I've kind of before I got into sports cars, I was pretty heavy into like Madden Ultimate Team and MLB Diamond Dynasty, which is a card game. Actually, I didn't even realize these correlations between the two, but like it's a card game, and every year they come out with the same videos because the same cycle is kind of going on with the news in the game, with the new cards that are going into the game. They make the same videos. So like that was sort of one of my inspirations with cards, because I was like, it's the same thing with like sports cards where there's a new, Topps flagship is coming out every single year. So like there will be an opportunity to make a video about Topps flagship every year. Hypothetically, I didn't think at the time that it would turn into what it is today with like every week it seems like there's industry changing news, whether it's Fanatics buying Topps or Fanatics getting all the sports card licenses, or it's a new grading company that's changing the game, or it's, new anything. So I think when it comes to, creating content too, I think I enjoy making videos, and I did more podcasting in the past. I haven't done as much of it recently, but like I enjoy doing all this stuff. So like when there is news, I enjoy kind of figuring out how I could make a video about it. And I think that's one of the things when you're making content, if you can find an industry that's like that, I think that's really great. I think that there are other, industries that are kind of like cards where there's news that's breaking all the time. So it's figuring out like how you want to portray yourself in a way. And I think one of the ways that I have is sort of relative trending news, I guess, in a way, is sort of one of the things that I've tried to do my best to cover as much as I can.
Yeah, like you said, with the news cycle, if podcasting wasn't around back in the day, it's really a sort of a newer phenomenon. I don't even want to call it phenomenon, but a newer industry. Phenomenon's kind of like come and then they go.
Right.
Podcasting's not going away. But if podcasts existed back in the day, it would be difficult to talk about stuff because there wasn't a ton. There was less releases. There was less breaking news. It would probably be more, hey, I love this set or I love this player. Not that, and we can still do that today. But the news cycle, the stories, in a sense, write themselves. You don't really have to think
right,
a lot to talk about. It's there for you, whatever you want to tackle that particular day. So, while it's difficult to do something every day, it's not to do something every day back then versus now. It's easier to do now because there's something happened within the last 24 hours that you can sink your teeth into and kind of share your thoughts and opinion on, where years ago you would, have to just talk about something that's already happened, that you've already probably talked about. You're just talking about it again. So it's when people ask me that know I've been doing this a while, they'll say like, what's the biggest difference? And I'm like, where do you want me to start? How much time, how much time do you have? It's not even, it's really not even similar. It's very, very different. And I don't mean that negatively. I just mean it's a whole different world that the hobby's turned into. It's real quick break, but we'll be right back after that.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com. Or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
We are back with Adam Palmer. With social media and the internet, it's become actually the world's become bigger, but it's become smaller because you can deal and talk to that many people where before you couldn't. And that's really one of the reasons for hobby growth. Another thing, not to make this, everything, Jeff, Hopper said recently when he was on, a couple weeks ago, which surprised me. He before he worked for Panini, he was known for Pack Geek, which was a great web podcast where he'd open a lot of vintage products, have some guests on. Did a great job with that. He's kind of surprised me. It came up in the conversation that he sort of feel like, while he never like shoot anybody's dream down, and if you want to do whatever you want to do, go and do it. But he just feels like there's just an oversaturation of hobby content. Whether it's, one thing that came up was people filming on like the show floors, just kind of
right, like the meme, the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, just kind of walking around, like, videoing, the goings on at the show, or videoing every transaction they make, and which not my thing. I've been a dealer since I've been 15 years old, so I've done a lot of shows. I've been to a lot of shows as not a dealer, just as a consumer. So I've seen and been part of many transactions. I just don't. They don't do nothing to see it on video. I've kind of lived. It's like kind of when you've lived them. Now, I'm not talking about, some of the deals you're seeing on these shows are, 40, 50,000, if not more, like for one card. And I get that doesn't happen all the time, and to document it's kind of cool. But when I'm talking about sort of the mundane, everyday kind of transaction that most people are accustomed to, just walking around the show. I know the first time I went to the National, believe it or not, for as long as I've been in the hobby, was 2019, and I was just shocked at how many cameras were all over the place. I joked, on the show that I felt like they were filming movies, and I was like crashing scenes every corner I turned. Like, hey, like you can photo bomb people when they're taking a photo. I was like video bombing stuff, not on purpose, just being funny, but it was like everywhere you turn, there was someone filming something. And for me, I don't want to be a content creator who kind of knocks content, but it's just sometimes it just can be a little overwhelming. Do we have to film every little nook and cranny of it? Again, it's a national, so I get that. I'll give that maybe a little pass than maybe a regional or a local show where, do we have to do that much filming? And I know there's been a couple shows, Adam, that actually have banned like cameras. Like, hey, we're not allowing any filming, not because we're trying to be meanies, but we just want for the people coming to the show, we want them to have a pretty unobstructed kind of experience buying, selling, and trading without having to worry. There's been even a couple instances where people have been were caught. I don't want to say caught, but they were involved being videoed, not doing anything bad, but just, hey, I don't want to be videoed. I don't want that part of my life, shown to everybody else like that. So, do you think there's an oversaturation? I mean, someone who does it yourself and do you think there's too much?
It's actually funny that you mentioned the 2019 National, because that's where I recorded my first video. Like I remember sitting in a chair being like, "What's up, everybody? I'm here at the National." And it's like, it was so it was like, I think it was my first sports card video that I posted on Instagram back in 2019. So it was it's so interesting to look back and be like how I guess I was uncomfortable, because I was like, I look back on it and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Just you're on camera, dude. It's fine. But I think also kind of the thing with a lot of content creation is I think it's one of the things that you said, we have become the world is so big, but the internet has made things so small. So it's we are so in tune with everything that's going on in sports cards that content, being aware of all the content that's going on is inevitable, just because we're trying to follow everything on Twitter and Instagram and, YouTube or TikTok or wherever. So I think what ends up happening is that we also, because I think what ends up happening too is a lot of the people that are making videos and all that kind of stuff, they sort of, maybe they either just started or they recently started. So we were following them previously without them making videos. And now that a lot of more people are making videos, that could be, I think, a scenario where we just don't even realize that there's a lot of content. But I also think that when it comes to how much content there could be, compared to other industries like sports betting or daily fantasy, think about all the content in those industries. And I think our industry is kind of in the same sort of category when it comes to what could be the potential for doing content. And I mean, I think there's also another group of people that make content in the hobby. And first of all, I'll say this, I commend anybody who's willing to make content, because it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but I do think that there could potentially be people that are making sports card content that in 2018, they were making Bitcoin content. And then in 2016, they were making like cannabis content. And then they've also made real estate content. And it's they're not necessarily as into sports cards as everybody else is. They're into making trending content about trending topics. So I think it's a kind of a combination of everything. I think we're just very aware of everyone making content in the hobby. So it's we might think that there is a lot of it, but in the grand scheme of things, our industry is still, we're also moving into an era where the amount of information about sports cards is becoming a lot easier to access. And these people making videos is one of the reasons why there's just more information. Like, I got started back in like 2018, 2019-ish. And if you wanted to find information about sports cards, it was like Cardboard Connections, Blowout forums. It was like there really wasn't like, trading. I think it's called the Trading Card Database, which just has like a bunch of sets. But like there wasn't that much content about it. So it was learning along the way. And I mean, for me too, like that was one of the things that when I started making content, that's why I started doing it, because I wanted to figure out how to help people that were getting into the hobby like myself, that were trying to learn about these things, but there weren't any resources to learn about them. So like, I think it's kind of a combination of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you make a great point too. You mentioned some of the other industries that there's as much content there. I think it's just, with innovation and technology, then you add in the factor, Adam, you know as well as I do, the hobby exploded the last couple of years. Everything, right. It wasn't just content creation. More people were breaking cards, breaking groups started, more, until the pandemic, you had more card shows. Now we're starting to see more card shows. That restrictions obviously are getting lowered, and I hope and think we're on the right side of those numbers now. Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but we'll be back with more with Adam right after that.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
Sports Card Nation is back with Adam Palmer. I love a card show. I'm a dealer. I love a card show from both sides of the table. I love going to them and buying stuff, and I love going and setting up and selling stuff. I did my first show at 15. And when the pandemic hit, right, a lot of the shows got canceled, including the National, the granddaddy of them all. And we didn't have many shows, and people were itching and fiending for them, as was I. So I know the feeling. And then, things got better enough where those events can be scheduled again, whether it's with a mask or without one, depending on your area. Mm-hmm. And people were itching to get back to doing things and going to the shows. But now I think we're seeing a lot more. And again, I think we're seeing shows maybe try to sort of replicate the National, or maybe even one up it in some ways. Do you think we can get to, I don't think we're there yet. That's not my question, but do you think we can get to a point now that there really aren't any restrictions where you can schedule things? You think we'll get to a point where there might be, we're talking about content creation oversaturation, and oversaturation of shows where there's just too many, and sort of the bloom comes off the rose, if you will. That is, there's just too many going on in too many areas at the same time, and it'll dilute sort of what we're used to. Do you think there's any threat of that, or not necessarily?
I mean, I think sports cards is a very unique type of industry where the whole industry is sort of fueled by people buying and selling cards, and I mean, making content and networking in a way at some of these shows. Because I kind of look at it also look at a South by Southwest or like a PAX East and these kind of these other industries, and they have a few big shows every year, and there aren't as many smaller shows, but I think like the smaller shows are good for people who, maybe they want to get into cards, but they don't exactly know how, and they want to maybe buy some cards, but like they don't want to buy from eBay, and so but they know how to use eBay, so they can go to the local shows. And I mean, I think one of the things about these shows too, is the shows as well, is that they are just as much shows for buying and selling, and as they are shows for, going and seeing your friends. Like I think that that's important. And I think as things are kind of opening back up again, which I think is really great, I think it's going to be good for these newer shows. And I mean, I sort of have a theory that like the National or whoever kind of wants to run these big shows, they're going to potentially do, they're going to almost franchise the branding of the National, or maybe not the National itself, but like a company will franchise its branding to become like the go-to show. And they'll be like, maybe every 3 or 4 months, there'll be like a show in a certain area where it's like, if you're going to travel to go to this show, and maybe there'll be some sort of kinds of networking events and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of look at it that way. And I think the shows are, like I said, just as much a opportunity to buy and sell cards as they are to go and see the people that you either have met online or that in person, and you're going to see them again. So I think it's kind of a combination of all that.
I agree. And, there's been talk, and even the local shows, I'm talking the smaller ones you mentioned, like you said, maybe someone who's sort of new or just getting started in their hobby career. We forget, I'll use the National example. You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, as much as it is about the cards, it's about meeting people, whether it's for the first time or, like you said, seeing them again. But not everyone, while me and you will most likely be at all or most of the Nationals, there are people just for whether it be financial reasons, other exterior, circumstances, can't get to the National. And so It's nice if they have a local card show so they can still get a card show experience, even if it's not the National. So I think it's important. We're seeing, it's funny, this year I've noticed we're seeing card shows in, smaller cities that have never had them before. And I just think that just speaks volumes to where the hobby's at, how big of an expansion it's going through. And I don't think that's bad. I think more people, I'm glad I live in an area where I can get to a local card show or set up at it as I do. But, there are certain areas where people don't have that luxury, if you will, and, or can't always go to the big show. There's been talk, Adam, I'm sure you've heard of it, about it, having like 2 Nationals during the 1 year instead of just one. When I first heard that, my first response is, sometimes, you hate when someone overdoes something. It's like, the old saying, jumping the shark, right? It kind of takes the luster off a great event. I'm not, not that it's my decision. I'm not opposed to having 2 Nationals, but if they're going to do that, what I'd like to see them do is then not have them in the same city twice in a year, but have one West Coast, East Coast.
Yeah, like PAX, like how they have like the PAX East and PAX West, sort of.
Yeah,
it's like I think it's like a video game conference. So I think it's important that they have, maybe it's not the National at a bunch of different locations within a year, but maybe it's like the National, but then like the same, company maybe that runs the National, they start branding their show some other way. And then they do some smaller shows, whether, it's on the West Coast or it's, or maybe they buy the company that runs the Dallas show, and then that becomes sort of, maybe whatever the sub brand of the National is. Or if it's, it could be Culture Collision in Atlanta, maybe they start expanding to other places in the United States. I think it's a great opportunity. I think, our industry I think it's still growing, even though we've seen it plateau a little bit over the past year or so, but I still think we're in a beginning stages. Like, this is how I compare it. I compare it kind of like when fantasy football and fantasy baseball went from like just pen and paper to online. That's sort of how I view where the hobby was at like last year. So, in the infancy of the industry becoming more online itself. So, I think that more shows, I don't necessarily go to a lot of shows. Like, I could try and go to the National every year. I went to the show that was in Boston. I've been to that one a couple times. And I had never been down to the Dallas show, but I think, there are people that want to go to these shows and they want to interact with the people and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's from that standpoint, I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah, and that's my thing too. I'm not opposed to two nationals kind of here, sticking to sort of what I've heard through the grapevine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to do that, I'd like to see them in two separate locations.
Right.
We're East Coast guys, so like the Atlantic City that we got coming up here at the end of July. I don't want to speak for you, but I think it's a lot easier for us to get there than, let's say, if it was in Anaheim, California.
Right.
But even if it was in Anaheim, California, as someone who's never been to California yet, maybe I take that opportunity. Hey, you know what? I'm going to do both of these if they do two nationals. I'm going to go to Atlantic City in July, and then in October, when it's getting colder here, as you very well know, I'm going to go out to California for a week and enjoy that national, if that's what they ever went to two nationals. But you make a great point. Some of these other shows, Culture Collision, the Dallas Car Show, which has become a huge thing. I went to that once. It's some of these, if we want to call them super regional shows, they're individually owned, so I don't know how that would work, but maybe the national could partner with them. I don't think the national, the board, could buy them. I don't think they're for sale, but maybe they could work with the owners, promoters, and say, listen, it's still your show, but National has a lot of pull, a lot of clout. We can, work together, if you will, and make your already great show even better. And sort of a kind of joined forces, if you will.
Yeah,
sort of
I also think in the reverse as well. Like, I think you're seeing a lot of stuff at Dallas and at the Culture Collision that you're not seeing at the National. So I think it would be mutually beneficial if all the regional shows, like the people who are running the regional shows, all work together to make sure these shows are branded in a way that like makes the hobby look good, if that makes sense. Like, and helps people who, like myself, like when I went to the National, I focused a lot on like networking and making videos and not as much buying and selling. Cause like when I walked in, I saw a bunch of 12-year-olds with like Patrick Mahomes RPAs. And I'm like, okay, there's no way I don't have those type of funds. So I'm just going to make videos. Like, that's what I'll do when I'm here. So I think there's kind of a combination that you could do there where everybody could kind of work together to make these shows as big as the National, but like also, help the National become maybe even bigger than we could even expect.
Yeah, because it would be promoting that event to come and vice versa.
Right.
I think anytime you kind of cross-promote, cross-pollinate, if you will, I think things grow even potentially bigger. And
totally.
Another quick break to hear from another one of our great sponsors. But right after that, we'll be back with more with Adam Palmer.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
We are back with more with Adam. You got the Sports Card Expo in Canada, which was traditionally in Toronto. That's now expanded to Edmonton. So, it's not just here in the States. It's even in Canada where the Sports Card Expo is now in two locations where it used to be one. And I went to one of those a couple years ago before the pandemic in Toronto, hung out with Eric Norton for 3-4 days. And that was how I would describe it, it's the Canadian National. And Steve Menzies, who owns that show, when I told him that's, what I looked at it as, he took that as a compliment. He said, "Thanks, John. That's a heck of a compliment because the National is a great show. And so if we're the Canadian version, I'll gladly wear that hat and put it on. And even if they can work together even there, or maybe even other countries that we don't even have borders with, we can get in Europe. We both know that's a growing hobby area, whether it be F1 or soccer, or even the mainstream sports we have here that they've gotten into, specifically, as you well know, basketball. And so to have maybe even, a national overseas. Now, I don't know if I'll get to that one. I do have a passport,
right.
But you can't go everywhere every year. But maybe one year I'll say, hey, you know what? I've never been to that country. They're having the European national, if you want to call it that, or whatever, depending on what country it is, and make sort of a vacation out of it, and a card show trip and a content creation trip out of it. Who knows? Maybe there's gears already turning in those in the works for that, but I'm all for it, right? You look at Disney World, right? At first it started in Florida, and then it went to Disneyland in California. And now we have Disney Worlds in Paris, Tokyo. I'm probably forgetting one, but
Shanghai. It's global. Yeah.
And so maybe that's what we could see. The hobby's global, so why not have a global sort of big time card show, even if it's once a year, but once a year, here in the United States, once a year or once or twice a year in Canada, once or twice a year in insert country A, wherever it's viable. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. If I live in Italy or Great Britain, that's a trip even to come to Atlantic City or Chicago. Now, people did make the trip. There were people at the last Chicago show. I met them from England and Italy, but if they had one closer to them, you could get more of those populations to attend a show like that and be more entrenched in the hobby. So I'm all for that. The hobby already is a worldwide, phenomenon, or I keep using phenomenon, but a worldwide industry. Right. And, why not, have everyone have an opportunity to attend a great event. And I'm sure a lot of the companies, right, whether it be Fanatics, Last Tops, Panini, Upper Deck, would love to go over there and have people come to their booth and do that sort of thing. We'll see Tops this year with their baseball card day. It used to be National Baseball Card Day. It's now going to be International Baseball Card Day, and they're bringing it to England and other countries. And that Upper Deck's doing National Hockey Card Day, but now they're going to do two versions, right? They're going to have an American version and a Canadian version, but they can even expand on that, maybe into Europe and Sweden and Norway and those sort of countries as well. So there's always room for growth, and as the hobby has grown, I think it's just a natural progression to look at other avenues.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm excited to see where 5-10 years from now where we're going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. As far as all the news that's been made recently, this is, I always tell people it's still sort of the early middle innings if this comparing it to a 9-inning baseball game. We got a lot of game left here. So all right. So I don't ask this question every week to whoever the guest is. I kind of pull it out every once in a while, Adam, and you're going to get it this week. I call it the hobby magic wand, right? I hand it to you. You can wave it and make one one wish, hobby only, hobby related only. Can't ask for $10 million. That's probably
right. Yeah.
But hobby related only. Something you want to see maybe more of, or for the first time, or something you'd like to get rid of. Whatever way you want to use it, it's in your possession. I hand it to you. I use my one wish. You get one. What are you gonna say?
I think I just wish that, and maybe it's a little bit selfish, but I just wish that everyone would like the hobby as much as maybe I do, I guess, in a way. Like, I feel like there are times where it feels like with a lot of pieces of news, there's a lot of negativity that comes with the pieces of news. And it's not necessarily always the same people. Like, it's always different. And it may just be like they don't like their thing. I just wish that maybe, you know what it is? I think I wish that positivity in the hobby was a little bit louder than negativity. If I could somehow wave the magic wand and make, the people that I think are extremely positive in the hobby and do great content, I wish that sometimes that they would get a little bit more shine than, maybe sometimes the negative stuff I feel like comes across my timeline a lot more than like stories about positive things. So if I could do that, I would say that I wish that, we all could be a little bit more positive. And I mean, I definitely fall into a boat where, I want things to be a certain way because of the experiences that I've had, So I just think that my choice is that I wish I could make positivity in the hobby louder.
Amplify the good and sort of drown out the bad. I agree. It's a good way to use that wand if it was real. And, but it's like someone asked me, Adam, piggybacking off what you said, someone's asked me before, why do people seem to, flock or want to talk or like focus on those negative things when they happen? And I don't think there's one thing I can say that would answer that question solely. I think it's like, when you're driving, right, and there's a bad accident, right, and people ahead of you like literally slow down to look, right?
Right.
It's that train wreck kind of, I call it the train wreck folks. You can't do nothing, but you got to see. Can I see what, is someone killed? Is someone hurt bad? Just that morbid curiosity, if you will. And I think we all have at least some level of it. I just think some have more than others. I have it because of content creation. I have to talk about it. I have to be able to hopefully answer someone's question or give my opinion on it. But then I think there's an unhealthy level where people get like just, caught in their tornado, and they're just like tunnel vision with it. And that's all they want to like focus on and talk about. But like you said, is 99% of the hobbies, that positive stuff.
Right.
1% is that bad stuff. But while it's 99-1, it feels like it's not that big of a discrepancy because of how much that 1% really gets focused on. It feels like the number's higher than the actual 1%. It is. And so, I hear you. Going to step aside for a real quick break, but we'll be right back after that. Are you a new sports card collector or someone that's returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for almost 4 years with affordable breaks, helpful Twitter threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. First-timers can use the coupon code MBB10 and save 10% on their first order. Your first break mail will also include a bonus card so no one strikes out on their first break. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. We've even launched an NFT project dedicated to the hobby. Find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreak. We've returned with Adam Palmer. We used to do a lot more like, Twitter surfing and reading stuff, and it's that bad stuff that like everyone, like I do a lot less of that just because like, you do that for a couple hours and you don't learn anything new, and you're like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't get that time back. It's
Same.
gone.
I definitely fall into that boat where I try and not use Twitter as much because like it's just, I go to Twitter to find information and then I end up just like leaving the platform like more like depressed because I'm like, why is that like that? Why is this thing the way it is? And these other things aren't. And I also think that, 9 times out of 10, the people leaving a negative, maybe a comment on your YouTube video or your TikTok or your Instagram, you're going to run into those people a lot more than you will people who would leave a positive comment, because the people who are leaving positive comments, they have things that they're doing that are more important maybe necessarily than leaving a comment. Like they're probably in the same sort of boat as people like us where they're making content. So like they're not necessarily focused on other people's content. Like they're focused on their own stuff. So like the people who aren't focused on something that they like, they're going to be focused on something that they don't like. And then they're going to leave maybe, and they see something that kind of is in the same conversation that they don't like, they'll probably be leaving a comment that's a little bit more negative. But like the people who are leaving, or the people who would hypothetically leave a positive comment, just don't comment because they've got other stuff that they're doing, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's a saying I kind of believe in and live by. I don't want to say live by, but I believe in it, right? It's, unhappy people do unhappy things, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone is, whatever reason, stuff at home, personal, they're an unhappy person, what are most of those type of people try to do? Make other people miserable, whether that's, like you said, leaving a comment or, saying something bad about you or, whatever. Misery loves company, another old cliche, but I think, old cliches exist because a lot of times
sometimes they're true.
They ring true. And so I think, misery loves company. Unhappy people do unhappy things. And, I try to steer clear of them. I'm not going to say I do it 100% of the time, but I try to for the most part. Sometimes it hits you square in the face even when you're not looking for it and nothing you can do about it. But I just don't go down those rabbit holes, as they say anymore, and lose, 2-3 hours worth of productivity and just reading the same thing over and over again. And if you can do that, it's better off for your psyche and your mindset than it's sometimes if you read certain stuff, and not just Twitter, I don't want to just pick on Twitter, you know that it could be Instagram, it could be anywhere else. You would think the hobby's a terrible place and this is no fun. And we both know that's obviously the opposite is true, that it is a lot of fun. It's what you make of it. If you want to make it a miserable place, you can do that. But I never understand why people want to do that, but to each their own. I'm just not going to feed into that.
Right.
And, like you said, I think that's the best mindset to have is just, hey, I'm not gonna go down that road other than getting the information that I need to report on things, to be knowledgeable myself, be aware of stuff, to speak on it, and only to that point and not any further than I need to. And if more people did that, I think that Hobby Magic Wand Wish would probably be more closer to reality than not. But that's it's that train wreck mentality. It's not a new phenomenon. It's been like that from the earliest days. So it's just something where I think me and you speaking, just us doing this conversation, just aren't gonna like feed into that, and can only control our own actions. So. But Adam, thank you for joining us tonight, sharing some of your insight, what you do, your thoughts, your opinions, kind of on the current state of the hobby. I always like talking to folks that are doing stuff like you do every day, because your fingers on the pulse of much, if not all, of this. And I always give the guests kind of the closing word, give out where people can find you, social media handles, websites, what you're doing, and they can track you down. So take your time and whatever you want to share there.
Sure. Yeah. So it's Heroes for Sale. It's HEROSFORSLE. It's spelled not how you would normally spell heroes. So there's no E in heroes. But yeah, so TikTok is kind of the big platform that I've been creating a lot of content on now, but I'm also on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. Reddit, I guess. Discord is kind of another thing that I've been messing around with a little bit. And I think, if I had, and also collectible app on TikTok is one of the other, I make their videos. And if you enjoy my content on any of the other platforms, I'm sure you would enjoy that content, because I'm scripting and editing and making all the videos. I work with some great people over at Collectible, making edits to certain things a specific way. So shout out to everybody at Collectible for having me and letting me work with them. So that's really great. And I mean, I think if I had one thing to say, my last parting words would just be, we're still in the hobby. We're still so new. Like, I think there's still so much room to grow. And I think there's going to be a lot of new people that are going to be coming in. And if someone has a question, just help them, just answer the question as politely as possible, because, as much as we know what Prism is, there is somebody who is getting into sports cards today that has no idea what Prism is. So it's like, we can definitely get, in the blender in a way where we think that everybody knows everything that we know because we've been doing this for years, but there's tons of people who are new. So, if I have any parting words, it's just be nice to the people that are coming in that are new, because they're one of the main reasons that we're growing here in the industry. So that's my message to the audience and anybody maybe that's creating content on any of the other platforms as well.
Yeah, well said. I agree 100%. I use 2 A words. I always say be an advocate and be an ambassador. If you love the hobby, why wouldn't you want to be helpful and promote it? I mean, like, to me, it's just sort of a no-brainer, but sometimes you need to say it, and kudos to you. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I know when I got in the hobby a long time ago, people helped me out and were very accommodating. I just sort of do the same in return all these years later. And if we were more like that, the hobby is fun, be even better. So good words to close on. Thanks again, Adam. We'll have you back on. I'll see you also as well on Hobby Hotline. I'm sure one of these, either Saturdays or Tuesdays too. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank for having me on.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Sports Card Nation. I promise I will keep the outro here shorter than the intro, but I do want to do say some thank yous and a little sneak peek to an upcoming episode. First off, thanks to you out there as always for listening to the show. Without you, we don't exist. Simple as that. Thank you to this week's guest, Adam Palmer, great guy. Check what he does out. Check him out on Hobby Hotline as well. And I had another person, that I didn't mention in the opening, reach out, say he's a fan of the show. And he has an interesting collection, and some of his work, or some of his collection, I should say, is on display at the Baseball Hall of Fame, not too far from me. And we'll have him on here hopefully sooner than later to talk about the hobby with him. I'm just sorry to tease you, but just a little tease. And we've got some great guests upcoming as well, as we going to be doing some interviews this week coming up as I'm off from school. So a lot of downtime to kind of get, 2, 3, 4 interviews done, including a preview of the National, which is fast approaching. And so look forward to that as well. All right, everybody. Thanks. As always, be safe, be well. And I want to reiterate, my door is always open. A hobby question, a comment, a concern. I answer every message sent to me. It's a pet peeve of mine when people don't return correspondence. So I make a point not to be a hypocrite when it comes to returning that correspondence. So my door is always open. Thanks again. Take care. Be well. We'll see you Monday with another episode of Hobby Quick Hits, and we'll be back here Friday as well for another episode of Sports Car Nation. Next week's guest, Omar Cornelius of One of One Memorabilia, custom card maker, does incredible work, and great guy, and all the way from Australia. So that will be next week's show. We'll see you then.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.